Hi, my name is Megan Rainnie, and right now I'm living on the Eurodam, a sister ship to the New Amsterdam, just right behind me here in Juneau Harbor. But I didn't always live on a ship. I actually lived in South Africa before I had one of the biggest travel adventures of my life, living in America for the last 24 years. And it kind of happened by accident. So I was in South Africa and I was working on a IT consulting project because I originally studied computer science. And I was working away, wanting to go travel in America. And so I was squirreling away my money and making plans to go traveling with a friend of mine. We were going to buy a car, we were going to drive across America, and that was the plan. But what happened in the meantime is I signed up for some medical insurance that had a little notice at the bottom that said, does not cover appendix. Of course, when you're a young 24-year-old, you don't expect anything to happen to you. You feel pretty invincible. But what happened is, of course, I had an emergency appendix operation. And I remember lying in the hospital bed and the doctor asking me if I felt okay, and I just could see my trip slipping away from me. I'd saved up all my money. I was basically paying for my own appendix operation. And so I had them discharge me within 24 hours, so I didn't have to pay another day. So anyway, now I've already cut into some of my savings and I'm desperate to go on this trip, this big adventure across America. And so I started a muffin business because years ago I had worked in a ski chalet in France, and we had had some ski bums who would come to each of the chalets and they would sell croissants in the morning, especially on a snowy morning when there's just a lot of snow drifts going towards town. People didn't want to get cold getting up, so they'd tack on a couple of cents on each croissant and then people would be able to buy those. So I had great memories of that time and thought, well, why not? Let's start to sell muffins. So I went around the neighborhood, I put signs up everywhere and asked people, do you want to buy muffins? Well, it was somewhat successful, but I had about 100 muffins left at the end of the day. So the next day I took them to work, and there was a little shop just around the corner that sold cigarettes and cookies and things. So I took them to the lady at the counter and put one in front of her and said, okay, here's some muffins. I want you to sell them. She asked me how much, and I said, just try sell them and we'll talk tomorrow. So I went back the following day and she'd sold half of them. So I said, no worries, I'll take these back. How much do you want to pay me? She told me, it seemed reasonable. And I will go ahead and bring some fresh ones for you every day. So I did that for probably 6 months to a year. And what happened is the muffins that I had left over, I took to work. And I thought, well, maybe I should ask my boss if this is actually okay. I'm kind of running a little side business here. And he came to my desk one day. Well, actually, no, it was in the elevator. He came to the elevator and said to me, I believe we can buy muffins here. Because we used to swim at lunchtime, so we were pretty athletic. And I said, okay. And I guess I didn't have to ask him because there was my permission. So I managed to fund my overseas travel to America with a muffin business. But that's not the end of the story, because there's a reason that I'm actually here in America working. I have a US citizenship. I went through the whole visa application. Because prior to actually going to America, there was a gentleman who was working with me on my project. We had 75 people working with us. There was absolutely no reason why he and I should have ever interacted. He was on the opposite side of the building. I was closest to the elevator, but not the side that he would walk past. So anyway, he found out about the muffins, and turns out his wife and his 2 kids loved the muffins. So every day he would come and buy 3 muffins. This was just at the beginning of email. So I would send out a little email at the end of the week saying, please settle your muffin debts, and people would come and pay for their muffins for the week. So anyway, Dennis then said to me, for next week you can cut down on the muffins because I won't be here. I said, oh, going on vacation? He goes, yeah, I'm going to America on vacation. I said, oh, that sounds like fun. He said, well, actually, I'm actually going for a job interview. I said, wow, that sounds even more fun. And so he ended up joining a small company based out of Florida in America. And not only did he take muffins or buy muffins from me in South Africa, but he also took my resume with him to the States. So I ended up interviewing with the company. I got a message saying, If you have at least 2 years of experience in the software, please call us and we'd be happy to interview. Well, I didn't have 2 years. I had a year's experience. But by then I was in London, and I got a message through my brother, through one of his friends who I was staying with, sleeping on the couch, saying, well, you have this interview if you'd like, but you have to have had, well, I didn't get the message actually, that you had to have 2 years experience. So I just went ahead and called, and they said, sure, we'll fly you down to Florida. South African, barely been around any part of Africa outside of South Africa. So the idea that they were going to fly me from Washington, D.C. down to Florida, put me up in a hotel, was just fantastic. Especially, I was going to be backpacking across America. So they took me down to Florida. They interviewed me, and then my journey across America consisted of accepting my job outside a small village. I remember the cemetery on the side of the road. I literally waited for a truck to go by. It was a mom and pop store with a little phone box, what we call a tiki box in South Africa, and they just said, yes, we'd love to have you. So that was the beginning of that adventure, and I've been traveling in America now for 24 years, working and traveling. And during the course of those 3.5 months of driving across America, I went to the University of Vermont next to Lake Champlain because I needed to fill out all the paperwork. When I was staying in a youth hostel in, where was it? It was in, Quebec. Well, actually Montreal, where I'm going to on my next contract. There we went ahead, my friend and I, and read through the whole contract. And then finally, I knew I was going to be working in San Francisco. So finally, as we ended our road trip, I came to the first sign that said, welcome to California, as we had come from Vancouver down the Pacific Coast Highway through the redwoods of Oregon into California. And so it just is amazing to me how just one decision, one little turn of fate really just changes the course of your life. Yet, if you didn't take that one step, you just don't know what else would have actually turned out. So I feel like every day is an adventure. I feel like I am very fortunate to have had all the adventures that I've had, but I also believe you create your own luck. And I believe very much in, if no one's looking for you, if no one knows you're looking, there we go, no one's looking for you. So I'm letting you know that I'm looking. And thank you so much for consideration, and I look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you.